There was an interesting variation to this drum, a kind which has been found only in India. It was also played during solstice or Makar Sankranti to ward off bad energy. Namaste and welcome to another episode of our Gita series. In our previous episodes, we covered the extraordinary story of Bhishma Pitama and we concluded our 12th verse with Bhishma blowing his conch, making a thundering sound which energizes Duryodhan and the entire Kaurav army. What happens after that? Let's hear that in Sanskrit first. Tatah shankhascha bhairyascha panavanaka gomukha sahasevabhyanyanta sa shabdastu mulo bhavat. Which means, then, right after hearing the sound of Bhishma's conch, the assembled army started playing their own conches, kettle drums, bugles, trumpets and horns, and their combined sound was overwhelming. Now that's what this verse says. Ever wondered why would people carry musical instruments like conches, drums, trumpets and horns to the battlefield? Surely the soldiers did not mistake the war to be a war of bands. But then again, the history of martial music is very old. Now how old, you ask? At least as old as the Vedas, because the first instance of musical instruments played at the battlefield can be found in Rig Veda. One of those instruments was Dundubi, which was a huge kettle drum. There was an interesting variation to this drum, a kind which has been found only in India, and it was called Bhumi Dundubi. It was made by digging a pit and then stretching leather over it, and all of it was done in a ritualistic manner. It was also played during solstice or Makar Sankranti to ward off bad energy. Too bad the art of making Bhumi Dundubi, a very interesting musical instrument, is lost, but we learn about it from Rig Veda and Taittiriya Samhita. The importance of these musical instruments, especially the Dundubi, can be understood from the fact that its capture in battle meant defeat. Dundubi is one of the oldest musical instruments from the Indian subcontinent and a precursor of all other percussion instruments such as the dhol, nagada, mridang, tabla, etc. We find the mention of many musical instruments played by the field musicians in the Bhishma, Drona and Virat Parv of Mahabharata, and the most notable ones being Shankh or the conch, Mridang, Gomukh and Bheri. I'm sure you know the conch and Mridang very well, and some of you might have even played them. In modern times, we don't know much about Gomukh, as the art of making and playing them is lost in time. The only thing we know is that it must have resembled a cow's head, hence the name. And also, it was a percussion instrument, like the drum. The other instrument is Bheri, also known as Ranabheri. Now, this is also a percussion instrument played to induce fear in enemy's heart. We find its description in Natya Shastra, the oldest surviving treatise on performing arts in human history, and also in Mahabharata, Ramayana and Vayu Puran, and Jatak tales as well. The word Ranbheri is still a part of Hindi vocabulary and a part of our language since thousands of years. Isn't that wonderful? Militarily, purpose of martial music is to induce courage and determination to overcome the enemy. But how can music do all that? Well, it turns out music can do that and much more. Like other pleasurable sensations, listening to or creating music triggers the release of dopamine, a brain chemical that makes people feel engaged and motivated. According to Harvard researcher and neurological music therapist Brian Harris, sound processing begins at the brainstem, which also controls the rate of your heartbeat and respiration. This connection could explain why relaxing music may lower heart rate, breathing rate, and blood pressure, and also seems to ease pain, stress, and anxiety. If you don't believe that, listen to the Om chanting on our channel. You will certainly feel relaxed. Similar research conducted closer home in Chengalpet Medical College, Tamil Nadu by Sugana S. and Deepika K. also found similar results. Their paper published in 2017 found out what we hear directly impacts our blood pressure and heartbeat. That is why we are ready for battle after listening to the background score of a war movie. I remember the background score of the movie Border did that to me as a kid. So, if your house is in a crowded locality where you hear a lot of traffic noise like honking, it not only affects your mental health but also your physical health. It can induce high blood pressure and stress as well. And with that, we come to the end of this episode where, along with the 13th verse of the first chapter, we also learnt about our heritage of martial musical instruments and the connection between what we hear and how we feel. If you don't subscribe now, you will hear a lot of loud honking tonight which won't let you sleep well. Thank you and Jai Hind.